Let me tell you something most people never admit out loud. The life you want isn't hiding behind some secret trick, magic formula, or moment of luck. It's hiding behind the boring, unglamorous, repetitive actions you refuse to do every single day. And that's the truth most people can't stand. We love the idea of greatness, but we hate the grind it demands. We crave results, but we quit the second the process feels inconvenient. Right now, think about something you've been saying you want for months, maybe even years. You've talked about it, you've imagined it, you've told other people it's your goal. But if I asked you to prove that you've shown up for it every single day without skipping, without taking a break, without disappearing for weeks, could you, or would you have to admit that you've been starting and stopping over and over, hoping somehow that inconsistency will deliver what only discipline can? Here's the thing, everyone wants to be consistent when they're inspired, when it's fun, when they feel good. But that's not what shapes your life. Who you become is decided on the days you don't want to show up. And you show up anyway. That's the difference between the person who stays stuck in someday and the person who actually gets there. If you've been waiting for motivation to strike before you act, you're already behind. Motivation is a mood, consistency is a choice. And until you understand that, until you stop negotiating with yourself every time it's uncomfortable, you'll keep spinning in circles, wondering why your life hasn't changed. Today, I'm not here to inspire you for a moment. I'm here to push you into a decision that changes the way you operate. Because once you learn to force yourself to be consistent, you take back control of everything. Your goals, your habits, your future. And from that point on, you stop hoping for a better life and start building it. People like to believe that consistency comes from motivation, that you wake up every day with this unstoppable urge to push forward, and that's what keeps you going. But the truth is, motivation is a fleeting guest. It comes when it wants to, it leaves when it wants to, and if you keep waiting for it to knock on your door before you take action, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. The real secret to consistency is understanding that it's not a feeling you wait for, it's a choice you make every single day, regardless of how you feel in the moment. Think about the people you admire, the ones who built incredible careers, mastered their craft, transformed their bodies, or became leaders in their field. Do you think they woke up every morning feeling like doing the work? Do you think they were excited every time? No. They got out of bed on the days they were tired. They trained on the days their muscles ached. They worked on their dreams when they had other things they'd rather be doing. That's why they're where they are, and most people aren't. Your emotions will betray you. Some days you'll feel inspired, some days you'll feel lazy, some days you'll feel unstoppable, and some days you won't even want to get out of bed. If your actions depend on those moods, your results will be just as inconsistent as your feelings. And here's the hard truth. The world doesn't reward people for what they intended to do. It rewards people for what they actually did, repeatedly, relentlessly, over time. The dangerous trap is thinking you need to feel ready before you begin. I'll start when I'm in the right mindset. I'll go to the gym when I feel more motivated. I'll work on my project when I'm in the zone. That's procrastination dressed up as self-care. You're not protecting your energy. You're avoiding the discomfort that consistency demands. And the longer you let yourself off the hook, the weaker that muscle of discipline becomes. The choice to be consistent is like flipping a switch. It's a commitment to action, not to comfort. You stop asking, do I feel like it? And you start asking, what needs to be done? You stop negotiating with yourself and start following through as if it's non-negotiable, because it is non-negotiable. This is the difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs work when it's convenient. Professionals work because it's required. Here's something you need to understand. Your brain will try to talk you out of doing the hard thing. It will give you every reason to delay, to skip, to just do it tomorrow. And if you keep listening, you'll train yourself to take the easy road every time. But if you push back, if you override that voice with action, something powerful happens. You begin to rewire the way you think. You stop being a prisoner of your moods and start becoming the kind of person who acts in spite of them. Consistency isn't about never missing a day. It's about refusing to let one missed day turn into two, refusing to let one bad week turn into a bad month. It's about showing up again and again until the habit becomes part of who you are. The most successful people don't have magical powers. They just keep showing up longer than everyone else. They understand that mastery doesn't come from intensity, it comes from repetition. There's a saying that goes, first you make your habits, then your habits make you. Every time you choose to act, even when you don't feel like it, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who follows through. And that identity becomes your default. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries, you see yourself as someone who does. That shift is everything. Because once your actions align with that identity, consistency stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like a part of you. But you have to be willing to push through the early stages. The part where it feels unnatural, the part where your mind resists you at every step, that's where most people quit. They think if it's this hard, maybe it's not meant for me. No, it's hard because you're breaking the habit of inconsistency. You're training yourself to take control. And like any skill, it's messy at first. But the more you choose action over mood, the stronger that skill becomes. Here's what I want you to remember. There will never be a perfect time to start. You will never feel 100% ready. Life will always give you reasons to wait, to delay, to skip. And if you keep letting those reasons win, you will keep living the same year over and over, calling it progress when it's just repetition without growth. The only way out is to decide that how you feel is irrelevant to what you do. When you make that decision, everything changes. Your days stop being controlled by the ups and downs of emotion. Your progress stops stalling every time life gets inconvenient. You stop quitting on yourself. And the best part, once you prove to yourself that you can act without waiting for motivation, you become dangerous in the best way. Because now you're not just capable of starting, you're capable of finishing. So tomorrow morning, when your alarm goes off and your brain starts whispering excuses, remember this, you don't have to feel like it to do it. You just have to do it. That's how you win. That's how you build a life that doesn't just exist in your dreams, but shows up in your reality. Most people have goals. They'll tell you they want to lose weight, make more money, start a business, write a book, or get in better shape, and they mean it, at least in the moment. But if you check in with them 6 months or a year later, chances are they're in the same place, still talking about the same dream, still saying one day, the problem isn't that they didn't want it badly enough. The problem is they never built a system to make it happen. A goal is just a target. It tells you where you want to go. But a system is the map that actually gets you there. Without that map, you're just wandering around hoping you stumble into success by accident. And hope is not a strategy. Goals rely on inspiration. Systems rely on structure. And when it comes to consistency, structure will always win. Here's why goals alone fail. They're based on results, not actions. If your goal is to run a marathon, that's great, but the race itself isn't what will get you in shape. It's the training schedule, the miles you run every week, the discipline of lacing up your shoes even on days when the weather is awful. The goal is the destination, but the system is the daily routine that moves you an inch closer every time you follow it. Most people treat their goals like wishes. They think about them, visualize them, maybe even write them down, but they never break them into a repeatable, non-negotiable set of actions that they can execute every single day. And that's why nothing changes. You can't just wake up and hope today will somehow be the day you magically make progress. You have to plan for it. You have to schedule it. You have to make it automatic so it doesn't depend on how you feel in the moment. When you build a system, you remove the need for constant decision-making. You don't waste mental energy debating whether you should work on your goal. You just do it because it's already built into your day. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't need to motivate yourself for it. You don't need to ask, should I do it today? You just do it because it's part of your routine. That's what you want for your big goals. You want them to be baked into your life so deeply that skipping them feels unnatural. Here's an example. Let's say your goal is to write a book. If you're relying on inspiration, you'll write only when you feel creative, which means your progress will be slow and scattered. But if you build a system, say writing for 1 hour every morning before work, you'll produce something every single day, even if it's messy. Over time, those hours add up to chapters, and those chapters become the finished book. That's the power of a system. It doesn't care how you feel, it cares that you show up. The beauty of systems is that they protect you from yourself. They shield you from your moods, your excuses, and your tendency to procrastinate. You don't have to be a superhero to stick to them. You just have to follow the process you've already set up. And the more you stick to the process, the less energy it takes because it becomes second nature. Another thing about systems, they keep you from getting overwhelmed. Big goals can feel intimidating because they're so far away. You look at where you are now compared to where you want to be, and it feels impossible. But when you have a system, you don't have to think about the finish line every day. You just have to think about the next step in the process. It's much easier to focus on what you can do today than to constantly obsess over the entire journey. Systems also create measurable progress with a goal alone. It's easy to fool yourself into thinking you're moving forward when you're really standing still. But with a system, you can track your actions. You can say, I did my 3 workouts this week, or I made my 5 sales calls today. That kind of tracking builds momentum, and momentum is one of the most powerful forces you can have on your side. Of course, building a system requires clarity. You have to know exactly what actions will move you closer to your goal and then design your routine around them. This means you can't just set vague intentions. You need specific, actionable steps. Eat healthier is vague. Cook dinner at home 5 nights a week and prep lunches on Sunday is a system. Save more money is vague. Transfer 10% of every paycheck to a separate account the day it arrives is a system. And here's where most people mess up. They overcomplicate it. They design a system so ambitious that it's impossible to maintain. They try to change everything at once, and when it collapses, they decide they're just not disciplined enough. The truth is, your system should be simple enough to follow on your worst day, not just your best day. You can always add more later, but start with something you can stick to, no matter what. Once your system is in place, protect it. Treat it like an unbreakable appointment with yourself. Other people can cancel on you, but you do not cancel on yourself. And if life throws you a curveball, adjust. Don't abandon. A system isn't meant to be perfect. It's meant to be consistent. If you miss a day, fine. Get back on track the next day. The system is only as strong as your willingness to return to it. At the end of the day, goals are important. They give you direction, but it's the system that gets you there. A goal will motivate you for a moment. A system will sustain you for a lifetime. And once you understand that, you stop obsessing over the finish line and start mastering the steps. Because the truth is, if you take care of the system, the goal takes care of itself. We live in a world obsessed with overnight success stories. Social media feeds us highlight reels. Someone loses 50 pounds, launches a business, hits 1 million followers, and we only see the big, shiny result. What we don't see are the months or years of small, unremarkable actions that built that success. And because we don't see them, we underestimate them. We convince ourselves that if we can't make massive progress right away, it's not worth starting. That's one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves, and it's the reason so many people never get anywhere. Here's the truth. Nothing extraordinary is built in one giant leap. Everything worthwhile is built in small, repeated steps. Those steps might feel insignificant in the moment, but over time, they create a momentum that becomes unstoppable. Think of it like compounding interest in a bank account. You start with something small. You keep adding to it. At first, the growth is almost invisible, but then as time goes on, the gains begin to multiply, and before you know it, what seemed small has grown into something massive. The problem is most people quit during the invisible phase. They start going to the gym, but after 2 weeks, they don't see a huge difference in the mirror, so they stop, they start saving money, but the numbers in their account don't look impressive yet, so they give up. They start a side hustle, but the profits are slow at first, so they walk away. They don't understand that small daily wins are like planting seeds. You can't dig them up every day to check on them. You have to keep watering them, trusting that something is happening beneath the surface. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you're adding to your personal bank of momentum. Maybe today you write just 1 page. Maybe you walk for 20 minutes. Maybe you drink more water instead of soda. On their own, these actions don't seem life-changing, but string them together day after day, and they start to reshape your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who does what they say they'll do. And that self-trust is the real foundation of success. What's powerful about small wins is how they build on each other. When you accomplish one thing, you feel a spark of pride. That pride fuels you to take the next action. That action leads to another result, which gives you more confidence, and the cycle continues. The reverse is also true. Quitting early kills momentum. The longer you go without taking action, the harder it becomes to start again, because now you have to overcome both the inertia and the guilt of stopping. The beauty of focusing on small daily wins is that they're manageable. You don't have to overhaul your entire life in one dramatic move. You just have to make consistent, intentional choices that move you a little closer to where you want to be. Over time, these small moves create an avalanche of progress. Look at anyone who has achieved something remarkable. They didn't get there by doing one thing once. They got there by doing the right things over and over until the results were undeniable. Another thing small wins do is shift your focus from the overwhelming big picture to the here and now. Big goals can feel intimidating. If your goal is to lose 50 pounds, the thought of that number can feel like climbing a mountain. But if your goal is simply to eat a healthy dinner tonight and go for a walk, that's something you can do. And if you do it today, then again tomorrow, and again the day after, you're moving toward that 50-pound goal without being crushed by it. Small daily wins also make failure less devastating. If you're measuring your progress only by the end result, a setback can feel like starting over. But if your focus is on the process, on just winning the day, then a bad day is just that, one bad day. You can pick up again tomorrow without feeling like you've lost everything. This mindset is what keeps you in the game long enough to actually succeed. And here's something else. The discipline you build through small wins spills into other areas of your life. If you consistently show up in one area, say your fitness, you'll start noticing that same commitment showing up in your work, your relationships, your finances. Consistency breeds consistency. It becomes part of who you are. But you have to commit to the long game. You have to be willing to do things that feel boring or repetitive because you understand that those things are moving you forward even when you can't see the progress yet. Success isn't built on occasional bursts of effort. It's built on sustained, consistent action. The small wins matter because they keep the fire alive. They're proof that you're moving even if it's just an inch at a time. Think of it this way. If you improve by just 1% every day for a year, you'll end up 37 times better by the end of it. But if you get 1% worse every day, you'll lose almost everything you've built. The difference between success and failure often comes down to the accumulation of these tiny choices. They're easy to do, and just as easy not to do. The question is, which way will you lean day after day? You can't wait until you're in the mood. You can't wait until you have the perfect plan. You start where you are with what you have, and you do something, anything that moves you forward today. Then you do it again tomorrow. That's how you win. Not with one big move, but with thousands of small ones that, when stacked together, make you unstoppable. Accountability is one of the most underrated but powerful forces in personal growth. It's the invisible line between those who dream and those who actually achieve. To hold yourself accountable means you are willing to look in the mirror and own what you see. Both the progress and the failures, without sugarcoating, without shifting blame, and without making excuses. It's a commitment to being brutally honest with yourself about whether your actions are truly aligned with your goals. Many people underestimate how transformative this mindset can be because it forces you to confront truths that are uncomfortable but necessary. The truth is, excuses are easy. They offer temporary relief from the discomfort of admitting you've fallen short. When you're tired, busy, or overwhelmed, it's tempting to tell yourself a story about why you couldn't do something. You blame traffic, your schedule, your energy, or the lack of resources. But here's the thing, the more you entertain those excuses, the more you train your mind to accept mediocrity. You start lowering your standards without even realizing it. Soon, you're not just failing to hit your goals, you're building a habit of letting yourself off the hook. And that's dangerous because habits shape identity. If you repeatedly avoid accountability, you begin to see yourself as someone who just can't stick to things. Holding yourself accountable is about reversing that. It's about building a different identity, one that says, I finish what I start. I do what I say I will do. When you operate from that place, you begin to trust yourself. That trust is critical because self-trust fuels confidence, and confidence fuels action. Think about it. If you constantly break promises to yourself, why would you believe in your ability to succeed? On the other hand, if you consistently keep those promises, even the small ones, you strengthen the belief that you can tackle anything. A big part of accountability is taking ownership of outcomes. If you didn't hit a target, ask why, but not in a way that points fingers at other people or external circumstances. Ask, what could I have done differently? This doesn't mean you ignore the role of outside factors. Life is unpredictable and not everything is in your control. But the key is to focus on what you can control, because that's where growth happens. Maybe you couldn't control that a meeting ran late, but you could have controlled waking up earlier to fit your workout in. Maybe you couldn't control that a client canceled, but you could have prepared a stronger pitch to increase your chances next time. Accountability also requires clarity. You can't hold yourself responsible for vague intentions. I want to be healthier is too broad. I will go to the gym 3 times a week is measurable and trackable. When your goals are specific, there's no wiggle room to reinterpret them later. It's either done or it's not. And if it's not, you face that fact and adjust. Without this level of clarity, you leave yourself an escape route for excuses. One of the most effective ways to stay accountable is to create systems for tracking your progress. Whether it's journaling your daily habits, setting reminders, or reviewing your goals weekly, you need a method for checking in with yourself. Accountability thrives in visibility. When you can see your progress or lack of it in black and white, it's much harder to lie to yourself. These check-ins also help you course correct before small failures snowball into complete derailment. Another powerful tactic is to set up consequences and rewards for yourself. If you miss a commitment, there should be a cost, even a symbolic one, so your brain learns that breaking your own word is not without impact. Conversely, when you follow through, reward yourself. This reinforcement builds a positive feedback loop where you're motivated not just by avoiding failure, but by experiencing the satisfaction of success. Perhaps the hardest part of accountability is embracing discomfort. It's not easy to admit you didn't follow through, that you procrastinated, or that you gave less than your best effort. But the ability to sit with that discomfort without hiding from it is what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Every time you confront yourself honestly, you grow a little stronger. You learn where your weak points are, and you can work on them instead of pretending they don't exist. Accountability also demands consistency. It's not something you practice only when you feel like it. The days you least want to hold yourself accountable are the days it matters most. It's easy to stick to your plan when everything is going smoothly. It's much harder when life throws you curveballs. But those are the moments that define you. They're the moments that show whether your commitment is real or conditional. Ultimately, holding yourself accountable is about respect. Respect for your own time, energy, and potential. When you live without accountability, you're telling yourself your goals aren't worth protecting, your time isn't worth managing, and your potential isn't worth reaching for. But when you live with accountability, you're making a statement. I take my life seriously. I take my commitment seriously. I take myself seriously. That shift in self-respect changes everything, from how you approach challenges to how others perceive and respond to you. No one else can give you this discipline. People can support you, encourage you, and even challenge you. But at the end of the day, it's you versus you. The quiet moments when no one's watching, that's when accountability really counts. Because if you can keep promises to yourself when there's no audience, you'll keep them anywhere. And once you've mastered that, there's no excuse left that can hold you back. Most people chase outcomes like they're chasing the finish line of a race. They think once I get there, I'll finally be happy. Once I achieve this, I'll finally feel proud. Once I reach my goal, then I'll feel like I've made it. And because of that, they treat the process like an obstacle, something to endure, something to just get through, so they can finally enjoy the reward at the end. But that mindset is a trap, because here's what happens. When the results take longer than expected, when the progress is slower than you imagined, when the outcome you're chasing feels far away, you lose interest. You lose drive, and eventually you quit. If you really want to be consistent for the long haul, you have to flip that thinking completely. You can't just love the idea of the destination. You have to love the road that gets you there. You have to fall in love with the process, not just the outcome. The process is where you'll spend 99% of your time. The outcome is just a moment. Think about it. Crossing the finish line of a marathon takes seconds. The months of training, the early mornings, the long runs, the sore muscles. That's the process. Writing the end at the bottom of your book is a moment. The late nights at the desk, the rough drafts, the endless editing. That's the process. If you hate the process, if you see it as nothing but a hurdle, you'll never make it through to that moment. Here's the thing about the process. It's where you actually grow. The outcome is just the proof of what you've become. But the becoming happens during the grind. It's the discipline you build from showing up day after day. It's the problem-solving skills you develop when things don't go as planned. It's the patience you learn when the results aren't instant. Those lessons don't happen at the finish line. They happen on the road. When you fall in love with the process, you stop obsessing over when you'll arrive. You start focusing on what you can control today. That shift changes everything. You stop asking, how much longer until I get there? And start asking, how can I show up fully today? This not only keeps you consistent, but it also makes the journey far more enjoyable. Instead of constantly feeling like you're failing because you're not at the goal yet, you start winning every single day you follow through. The truth is, if you're only motivated by the end result, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Why? Because the finish line always moves. You think you'll be satisfied when you reach a certain weight, but once you get there, you want more. You think you'll be happy when your business hits a certain income, but once you hit it, you set a higher target. That's not a bad thing. It's human nature to want to grow, but it means you can't rely on the outcome for your fulfillment. You have to find fulfillment in the act of doing the work itself. And here's the irony. When you love the process, the outcome tends to take care of itself. The person who loves training will naturally become a great athlete. The person who loves practicing their craft will naturally become a master. The person who loves learning will naturally become knowledgeable and skilled. You can't fake that. If you're only in it for the end result, your effort will always have an expiration date. Falling in love with the process doesn't mean every day will feel amazing. There will still be hard days, frustrating days, days when you want to quit. But when you're process-focused, you understand that those days are part of the deal. You stop seeing them as failures and start seeing them as necessary steps. The bad days teach you resilience. The slow days teach you patience. The challenging days teach you problem solving. All of it counts. It also frees you from constantly comparing yourself to others. When you're outcome obsessed, you measure your worth against someone else's results. When you're process obsessed, you measure your success against your own actions. Did you show up today? Did you follow through? Did you keep your promise to yourself? That's the scoreboard that matters. One of the biggest benefits of falling in love with the process is that it turns consistency into identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who's trying to achieve something. You see yourself as someone who simply does the work. The writer writes, the runner runs, the entrepreneur builds. It becomes who you are, not just something you're chasing. And when it's who you are, you don't need to force yourself as much. You just live it. So how do you fall in love with the process? You start by paying attention to the small victories along the way. Notice the satisfaction of completing a workout, the pride of hitting a daily word count, the progress in your skill after consistent practice. Celebrate those wins because they are the real milestones. You also make the process fit your life instead of trying to fit your life into the process. If you hate every second of it, you won't stick with it. Find ways to make it enjoyable, even if it's just in small details. Most importantly, you remind yourself that the process is where life actually happens. If you're always waiting for the destination to be happy, you'll spend most of your life waiting. But if you learn to value the work itself, the discipline, the learning, the slow transformation, you'll find that you've already won, even before you reach the finish line. The outcome is just the trophy. The process is where you earn it. And if you can learn to love that, There's no finish line you can't cross. At the end of the day, everything we've talked about comes down to this. Your life will be shaped not by what you say you want, but by what you repeatedly do. Dreams are fragile when they're just ideas in your head, but they become unstoppable when you back them with relentless, consistent action. You can keep waiting for the perfect time, the right mood, or the ideal circumstances, but you'll be waiting forever. There is no magic moment when the path suddenly becomes easy. There is only the moment you decide that your excuses are no longer stronger than your commitment. Every day you are casting a vote for the person you want to become. Each action you take, no matter how small, is a brick in the foundation of your future. Skip too many days and the foundation crumbles. Show up day after day, and you build something that can withstand anything. The question isn't whether you have what it takes. You do. The question is whether you'll give what it takes, whether you'll show up when you're tired, whether you'll keep going when it's slow, whether you'll stay the course when no one is watching and no one is applauding. That's where the real transformation happens. Quietly, in the moments no one sees. So, here's my challenge to you. Stop chasing the perfect wave and start rowing your own boat. Stop obsessing over when you'll arrive and start mastering what you do today. And if you fall, you get back up. If you stumble, you keep moving forward. No drama, no self-pity, just the next step and the next and the next. Because in the end, the people who win are not the ones who start with the most talent or the biggest dreams. They're the ones who simply refuse to stop. Now decide, are you going to keep wishing for consistency, or are you going to be consistent? The rest of your life is watching your answer.